There is a lagoon at the northwestern tip of Crete, where the water is so shallow and so clear, it barely looks real. The color shifts from pale white sand to electric turquoise to deep sapphire blue across just a few hundred meters, and the beach that frames it is made from crushed pink and white shells. That lagoon is called Balos, and it sits less than an hour from Chania, a city of around 50,000 people on the northwestern coast of Crete, shaped by Venetian, Ottoman, and Byzantine rule over more than 3,000 years. From this base, you have access to some of the most extraordinary landscapes, beaches, and ancient sites in all of Greece. Here are 10 of the most breathtaking places in and around Chania. 1. Balos Lagoon. Balos is one of the most photographed places in Greece, and when you arrive, it becomes immediately clear why. The lagoon sits at the tip of the Gramvousa Peninsula in the far northwest of Crete, accessible either by boat from Kissamos or by a walking trail from a cliff-top car park. From the high ground above, the view is extraordinary. A sweeping arc of white and pink sand, flanked by turquoise water so shallow that the seabed is visible even in the deeper sections. The colors are not a filter or an edit. The combination of white shell sand, warm, clear water, and the surrounding rocky headlands creates a palette unlike anywhere else in Greece. The boat trip from Kissamos takes around an hour each way and passes the island of Gramvousa, where a Venetian castle sits on the clifftop above the sea. Arrive in the morning to get ahead of the midday crowds. 2. Elafonissi Beach. At the southwestern corner of Crete, roughly 90 minutes from Chania, Elafonissi is one of the most distinctive beaches in Europe. The sand here contains crushed pink coral and shell fragments, giving the shoreline a soft rose tint that deepens in certain light and at certain angles. The sea is exceptionally shallow for a long distance from the shore, making it calm and safe even on busier days. At low tide, a sandbar appears connecting the main beach to a small island of the same name, which you can walk across with the water barely reaching your knees. The island has its own quieter beach on the far side, often less crowded than the main shore. The whole area is a protected nature reserve, so development is minimal, and the landscape feels remarkably unspoiled. Visit early in the morning or in the late afternoon for the best colors and softer light. 3. The Venetian Harbour and Lighthouse. The old harbour of Chania is one of the finest in the Mediterranean. Built by the Venetians in the 14th century, it curves around a sheltered bay lined with former shipyards, now converted into restaurants and bars, behind a narrow strip of waterfront. At the far end of the outer breakwater stands the Egyptian lighthouse, originally built by the Venetians and later reconstructed during Egyptian administration of Crete in the early 19th century. At dusk, when the light turns amber and reflects across the harbour, this is one of the most visually striking scenes in all of Crete. The walk out along the breakwater to the lighthouse takes around 15 minutes and rewards you with a view back across the entire bay, with the Old Town rising behind it. The streets directly behind the harbour lead into the oldest parts of the city, passing a former Ottoman mosque and the city's covered market. 4. Samaria Gorge. Samaria is the longest gorge in Europe, running approximately 16 kilometers through the White Mountains in the interior of western Crete. The walk begins at a high plateau at Omelos, around an hour south of Chania, and descends through the gorge to the coastal village of Agia on the Libyan Sea. The trail passes through pine forest, open rock faces, and narrows dramatically at a section known as the Iron Gate, where the gorge walls close to just 3 or 4 meters wide and rise over 300 meters on either side. The walk takes between 4 and 6 hours for most visitors, and is rated moderate. The scale of the landscape throughout is impressive, and the Iron Gate section alone is worth the journey. Sturdy footwear is essential. Buses run from Chania to the trailhead, and a short boat ride from Agia Rumeli connects you back to the road network. 5. The Old Town. Chania's Old Town is one of the best preserved historic centers in Greece. The Venetian street plan remains almost entirely intact, with narrow lanes, stone archways, and buildings that date back 500 years or more. The Splantia neighborhood, slightly inland from the harbor, is quieter and less visited than the waterfront and offers some of the finest architecture in the city. Look for the Byzantine church of Agios Nikolaos, which was converted into a mosque during the Ottoman period and still carries a minaret on one corner. The covered market, the Agora, is a cross-shaped building constructed in the early 20th century and modeled on the market in Marseille. It is one of the best places in Chania to browse local produce, herbs, and Cretan olive oil. The Old Town is best explored on foot, early in the morning or in the early evening, when the streets are quieter and the light is at its best. 6. Agia Triada Monastery. The monastery of Agia Triada, formerly known as Zagarolon, sits roughly 20 kilometers east of Chania on the Akrotiri Peninsula. It is one of the most beautiful monasteries in Crete, built in the Venetian Renaissance style in the early 17th century. The entrance facade is symmetrical and ornate by Cretan standards, with arched colonnades framing a courtyard planted with orange trees. The monastery is still active and produces its own olive oil and wine, sold at the entrance. A short drive further up the peninsula leads to another monastery, Gouverneto, which is older and more austere. From there, a trail descends to the ruins of the abandoned monastery of Catholico, carved directly into the rock face above a gorge. The combination of all three makes for an exceptional half-day itinerary through some of the most atmospheric countryside near Chania. 7. Theriso Gorge. Theriso is a short drive south of Chania and almost entirely unknown to international visitors. The gorge is narrow, green, and dramatic, with the road cutting through the rock for several kilometers before opening into a small mountain village of the same name. The village sits in a fertile valley at the foot of the White Mountains and carries real historical weight as the site of the Theriso Revolution of 1905, a pivotal moment in Crete's long campaign to unite with Greece. The drive through the gorge is one of the most scenic short routes on the island. The village has a handful of traditional tavernas. The whole trip from Chania takes less than an hour and feels entirely removed from the tourist trail. For anyone wanting to see a quieter, more authentic side of Western Crete, this is one of the best choices available. 8. Arkadi Monastery. Arkadi sits roughly 90 minutes east of Chania, closer to Rethymno, but it is one of the most important sites in all of Crete and well worth the journey. The monastery was built in the 16th century and is architecturally striking, with a Renaissance facade that stands in contrast to the rugged landscape surrounding it. It holds deep significance for the Cretan people. In 1866, during a period of Ottoman rule, hundreds of Cretans took refuge inside the monastery and chose to destroy the gunpowder store rather than surrender, an act that drew international attention and strengthened the cause for Cretan independence. The monastery is a place of quiet reflection, and the surrounding countryside is beautiful. The church interior and small museum are both worth visiting. The road between Rethymno and Arkadi passes through some of the most striking highland scenery in Western Crete. 9. Lake Kournas. Lake Kournas is the only natural freshwater lake in Crete and sits roughly 40 kilometers east of Chania. close to the small town of Gorge, surrounded by low green hills and fed by springs from the White Mountains. The lake has an unusually peaceful quality that is difficult to find elsewhere on the island. The water changes color through the day, shifting from pale green in the morning to a deeper blue as the light changes. Small terrapins and eels are resident in the lake, and there is a narrow path along part of the shore that makes for an easy walk. Pedal boats are available to hire, which lets you get out onto the water and look back at the hills and the faint outline of the mountains behind. The village of Kournas above the lake has several tavernas with views down across the water. This is a quiet and unspoiled spot that very few visitors to Crete ever find. 10. Lutro Village. Lutro is one of the most remote and peaceful villages in Crete, sitting in a small horseshoe bay on the southern coast, roughly 2 hours from Chania. There is no road into the village. The only ways to arrive are by ferry from Choras or Agia Rumeli, or on foot along the coastal path. The result is a place that feels completely removed from the rest of the island. White and blue buildings line the waterfront, small fishing boats sit in the calm bay, and the mountains of the Sfakia region rise steeply behind. The water in the bay is clear and exceptionally calm, sheltered by the surrounding headland. Just east of the village, accessible by a short boat ride or a swim, lies Sweetwater Beach, a pebble shore where natural fresh water springs up through the seabed. Lutro rewards visitors who are willing to make the effort to reach it. The best time to visit Chania is between April and June or September and October, when the weather is warm, the sea is swimmable, and the crowds are manageable. July and August are the busiest months, and temperatures can be intense, particularly inland. A hire car is strongly recommended for exploring the region, as many of the most impressive sites, including Balos, Elafonissi, and Samaria, are not easily reached by public transport. Chania is served by international flights into Chania International Airport, and the city centre is compact enough to explore entirely on foot. Accommodation across all price ranges is available, from small guest houses in the Old Town to hotels along the coast. If Chania is on your travel list, check the description below. We've included stunning places to stay, highly recommended cafes and restaurants, and tips to help you get the most out of your visit. Please like this video to support the channel and hit subscribe so you don't miss out on the amazing destinations coming next. And tell us in the comments what's your favorite place and where you want us to cover in our next video.